Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz at Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Monday. Hope your work week off to a good start. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Jordan Kitchens and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Lots and lots to do. LSU's baseball roster just about finalized for the summer. There was a commitment earlier today elsewhere, and I think that was probably the last guy on LSU's list. So I'll talk to you about where that sits here in 15 minutes. I spent Saturday night at LaBerge inside ESPN Bet. Had a big old time. I want to talk a little bit about that later today. Scotty Scheffler, pretty good. Watching some history. We'll do a little bit on that as well. But some football to be discussed for sure. Sean Fazan from Fox 8 is going to be on at 2 o'clock to talk about the New Orleans Saints. The Athletic put the college football quarterbacks in tiers. Something very, very striking about Tier 1 that we'll get into. And I started a series up on LouisianaSports.net today called In-Depth Chart, something we did last year right when we launched the site. And I'm going to go through every position on LSU's football team and kind of break it down in depth as to who is jockeying for playing time. And we'll talk about the center position coming up at 2:30. But we'll crank things up the way we do every single day with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
So the front page of ESPN.com today is a piece that's been compiled by multiple contributors across ESPN's NFL team. And what they did was they took the offseason, boiled it down, looked at every roster, top to bottom, the entire National Football League. They ranked them from 1 to 32. Started with the Ravens, number 1. Then you get to the Eagles, number 2. No surprise there. You get to the Lions, number 3. You get the point. They take every team's biggest strength, biggest weakness, their X factor, and then the non-starter on the roster you may need to know. And they went through the depth chart of every team. If you're looking to kind of dive into the football, it's a pretty good comprehensive look at everybody in a digestible form. But as you well know, we're looking for local angles here. I'm not telling you about the non-starter to know for the Lions. It's Dan Skipper, their 5th offensive lineman. But we want to talk about the Saints, right? So I'm thinking, well, it's probably not going to be great, but let's see like where it is. And I start to scroll, and I keep scrolling, and you get to 27 with the Giants, and you get to 28 with the Titans. Well, they're not very good. The Jets are 29. I know that's not a great team. And then I saw the Panthers at 30, and I went, oh, this is not great. So what's 31? The Browns. And that means 32 is the Saints. 33 does not exist. ESPN ranks the Saints as the worst roster in the National Football League. They give the biggest strength to the Saints at edge rusher, where Granderson, Chase Young, Cam Jordan roam. They say the biggest weakness in the Saints organization on the roster right now is at quarterback. Certainly makes sense. Tyler Shook is a second-round pick that's never played. Their X factor for 2025 is Kelvin Banks and Taliesin Fuaga, and the non-starter to know is Kendre Miller. Maybe he can assume some role from Alvin Kamara. And that's the look at the Saints. And instead of sitting here in July and going, look, the Saints are the worst team in the league. What a disaster this entire fall is going to be. Mickey, what a doofus. Like, that's not really what anybody wants to hear, right? I don't have really any interest in doing that. So I decided, instead of bemoaning the roster and talking about how they're dead last, instead of doing that, I just wanted to look at, okay, well, what if they aren't the worst? Like, what will have happened if instead of 32nd, the Saints are closer to 20th? Like, what would have happened between August and the first week of January to make sure that they were closer to the middle of the pack than the bottom of the heap? And my thought is 3 ways. The first one is very obvious. If Tyler Shough is a great player and he just kind of figures it out really early as an old rookie, well, that is literally what the piece said it's their biggest weakness. I get that. If he's not a weakness, you drag yourself out of there pretty quickly. And that's the hope of every team that takes a quarterback in the first couple of rounds of every draft, that you're the guy that's going to rescue us. We're picking early in draft because we're not very good. Help. And if Tyler Shuck comes in and looks poised and commands the huddle and throws the ball accurately and doesn't make really poor decisions, I think that's your quickest way out of the basement. The second piece to this puzzle, and keep in mind, none of the pieces really matter that much if quarterback is a complete mess, but I think everyone is well aware of that. The second piece to the equation that would make the Saints climb out of the gutter more quickly is if the offensive line is not just pretty good, as if it's really good. And that's possible, right? It's possible. Taliese Fuaga is a Pro Bowl caliber right tackle. I thought he played well at left tackle. You move him to his more natural position, and oh, by the way, one that's not quite as demanding, he could be a Pro Bowler. You took Kelvin Banks in the first 10 picks of the draft. Guys that go in the first 10 picks of the draft make a lot of Pro Bowls, are really good as rookies often. You already know Eric McCoy is a top 4 center in the NFL. And then you got your guards, which you've got Ruiz, who's been in there, and then you've got Penning, who maybe unlocks something at guard. I'm asking, but that's the point. When you've got the roster that's ranked 32nd in the league, you're going to have to prove some people wrong to climb out of that. And maybe the Saints offensive line in this new form is really good. And guess what that does? It makes life a lot easier on Tyler Shuck, and you can run the ball. And you know Kamara can pick up some yards, and there are a couple guys behind him that are going to have to figure some things out, stay on the field. But if Shuck's good and the offensive line's good, you feel like Kellen Moore's pretty good, and you've got some guys to get the ball to on the outside. Like all of a sudden, you're not the worst team in the league. And then my third piece to this puzzle is to kind of pry the Saints out of this deal is maybe your defensive front takes a massive step forward. The Saints last year up front defensively stunk. They didn't rush the passer well enough. They were a sieve against the run, and they've made some changes, namely Devon Godshaw. But you also went and signed Bullard over the weekend, and then Brazzi a year older, and Granderson's got to play better than he did last year, and Chase Young is still a dynamic player. I can get you to an above-average NFL defensive line if all those things happen. You got to stay healthy. Brazzi's got to take a progression, specifically against the run, but Godshaw's a new face who's been a very good run stopper his NFL career. Getting older, but been a good run stopper. No one's going to argue Chase Young's talent. And Carl Granderson, he's had some really impressive moments. 2 years ago, he was a great pass rusher. I don't know if he was last year. In fact, I know he wasn't. But 2 years ago, he was. And you got to play Cam Jordan in the role that fits him, which is sparingly, not the massive amount of snaps he used to take when he was a perennial Pro Bowler. And let him teach the young guys, play a limited amount of snaps, and be a little bit productive when he's out there. I'm not even asking for Isaiah Foskey to take a huge jump. I think that ship is more than likely set sail. I won't slam the door on it, but you get it. It's not something I'm going to count on, right? And those are the three things. I think if those three things can happen, the Saints can be closer to 20 than 32. Shook develops, produces. The offensive line in a reconstructed form comes to life and becomes a well above average unit. You've invested plenty in that it could be that. And then your defensive front. The line of scrimmage and the quarterback. How easy is that? But it's something you got to point to. If you were wondering, well, where's the rest of the South? Those are the teams we got to compete with. Those are the teams we got to play. I told you earlier that the Panthers came in at number 30, so you're a couple of ticks behind Carolina. And the rest of the teams, the other two teams, are not too far out in front of you. Atlanta's 26, so you got 26, 30, and 32 in the division. The consensus is with Baker Mayfield that Tampa is the best team in the division, but it's still not some sort of massive climb to get all the way to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Excuse me. Tampa does reach the top half of the league, but 12 is where you find Tampa. So you don't have anybody in your division that they consider a top 11 team in the NFL. You're looking at the playoff bubble right there. So it's disappointing to click the button and see the Saints show up at the bottom. How do they fix it? Well, that's what they got to get to work on starting on Wednesday. So we'll talk to Sean Fazan from Fox 8 about all that in 50 minutes from right now. Jordan, you've listened to me chat about the Saints here. They're last. Are you surprised by that?
I'm a little surprised, but I also feel like that's just the homer blood in me. So I'm like, well, damn, 32? I don't think we that bad. But, I mean, this team potentially could be pretty bad. And the way how I feel about it, I would like to be top 20, but that's only if you see signs from Shuck that it's workable. But if he's a complete dumpster fire, you need to be losing. Like, lose. Like, I know nobody wants to
It's not going to be hard to lose if he's terrible.
It's not going to be hard. But if he's terrible, I'm okay with, I can say punting on the year, but, hey, we need a top 3 pick. We got to get one of these next guys because the quarterback class is loaded. We got to find a way to get one of these guys. But if Shuck shows a sign of life, that you can work with this, it shows flashes, I can see the team getting up to maybe 25. Maybe 25. The list is a little it hurts the soul to watch. It does hurt the soul, but I just don't see the ceiling being that high for the team, even if things do go right. Like the Indianapolis Colts at 25. I think they can be better than the Colts. Anthony Richardson, who knows? Like, I think they can get there, but Tampa Bay at 12, no way in the world will the Saints be a top 12 team.
No, not this year.
No.
Just that's unless Shuck is bordering on the MVP.
Yes.
You're not going to get there. So, all right, that's a look at the New Orleans Saints. We'll talk a little bit more about them coming up in 45 minutes from right now. LSU's baseball roster just about looks set up. I'll talk about it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com is the website. Every car that's on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. Go by and see them. Airline at PQ. If you're in the market for a new vehicle in Baton Rouge, you are probably going to be on Airline Highway. Just make one more stop. You'll see the gorgeous facility. The wonderful staff will greet you. You'll feel like a guest and not a customer. Get behind the wheel. You'll feel the Genesis difference. Every single model on the line is an IHA top safety pick. All of them. Some of them top safety picks plus. Get behind the wheel. Feel the comfort, the style. Let the brand ambassadors tell you about all the features. Whether you're looking for an SUV or all the way down to the sedan. Entry level, highest end. It's a luxury vehicle at a reasonable price. Genesis of Baton Rouge, and you can check it all out online at genesisofbatonrouge.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
One of the final dominoes in the transfer portal class fell earlier today. Joey Volchko, flame-throwing right-hander from Stanford, is headed to Athens to play for Wes Johnson and Georgia. Walks have been an issue for Volchko. Command's been a big issue for Volchko, but he throws really hard and he's got sharp breaking stuff. So he'll fit right in that Georgia staff, which last year threw a bunch of guys through 98 miles an hour. None of them threw it over the plate. They didn't get a lot of guys out. But Volchko will go play for the Dogs. I know that LSU was in the mix for Volchko. Don't know how close it was there at the end. And I feel like I can say with some degree of confidence that I think LSU's roster is just about set as far as the additions. Nothing would stun me in the transfer portal era if you find somebody here or there. When they found Dax Daith as a seventh-year community college transfer a couple weeks ago. Like, things can happen, and I don't pretend to know every single person that's available and who LSU's in on, but it feels like that was maybe the last ship to sail in the transfer portal class that LSU was heavily in on. So you look at kind of what LSU's got now, and I've got this all written at LouisianaSports.net if you'd like to go check it out. It's free. I put it up on Saturday, I believe. So you've got 3 catchers. Cade Aaron Beatty coming back. Eddie Yaman coming back, and then you bring in Omar Cerna in this draft class, big power hitting catcher. So you got 3 guys at catcher. Infield, you really went hard in the transfer portal, so you've got a lot of numbers there, 10 of them. Tanner Reeves is back. Seth Dardar is back, is transferring in from Kansas State. Braden Simpson comes in from High Point. Zach York comes in from Grand Canyon. Then you've got Stephen Milam, who comes in, is your shortstop. Trent Caraway from Oregon State. John Pearson is the lone returner there as a sophomore. And then in your signing class, you got Mason Braun, who's a first baseman, and then Ethan Kloss and Jack Ruckert, who are shortstops in the high school class. So that's 10 infielders that you've got. You can cover every position there. Outfield depth is not massive, but it's a really good group. It's Chris Stanfield, Jake Brown, and Derek Curiel returning. You bring in Daniel Harden from Community College. He's a Baton Rouge native, and then William Patrick, a big get in the signing class from St. Fred's. So you've got guys that can really run and big-time tools in Brown and Patrick. And then you've got Curiel, who's a star, and Stanfield, who's steady as they come. And you're in good shape for the outfield for 2026, this next year. But you're going to lose Stanfield. You're going to lose Brown. You're likely going to use Curiel in this draft and then in the following draft. So you're going to have to really restock those shelves next year. Outfield will be a big portal emphasis for LSU. But for this coming season, you've got a really good group there at the outfield. I count 21 pitchers that LSU's got. This is a long list to kind of run through, but you'll get the picture. As in the senior class, Zach Cowan, Connor Binge, Dax State, the Angelo State transfer that I was just talking about, and Grant Fontenot. You've got juniors in Jaden Newt and Gavin Guidry returning, as well as DJ Primo. You got transfers in Santiago Garcia and Cooper Moore. Garcia, the left-hander from Oregon. Moore, the former Kansas ace right-hander. Devin Sheeran comes back. That's a guy who absolutely has a chance to be in the starting rotation next year. Then you go to the sophomore class where you got a lot of talent from this past freshman class. Kason Evans, Maverick Rizzi, Cooper Williams, William Schmidt in that class. Ethan Plog comes in as a junior college add. As a left-hander, Danny Lockenmeyer is a transfer left-hander from North Dakota State. Ryler Smart comes in from Tennessee, big physical left-hander. Then you got your high school signees, Reagan Ricken, who I'm really excited about, Marcos Paz, who's I'm even more excited about, and then Zion Theophilus, the freshman, and then Jonah Ays as a freshman as well. Connor Ware signed a contract with the Mets, so he is moving on after being selected in the 15th round. The one guy on this list that is still up in the air is River Hamilton. He was an 11th round selection of the Tigers, and I feel like it's very, very, very likely he's going to sign. So certainly they would take him. If not, he'll sign and move on to professional baseball. If you counted, that's 21 pitchers and 5 outfielders. That makes 26. You got 10 infielders. That's 36. And then you got 3 catchers. That is 39 that LSU has. Your roster's got to be 34. So you're 5 over, right? What they have in place is a designated student athletes tag. What they did here is because they've limited the roster from down to 40 to 34. If you've got guys who would lose their scholarship based purely on that rule and being cut, you can designate them in this clause and they can stick around or transfer before August the 5th. So they've still got 2.5 weeks basically that they can still transfer. I don't know what LSU's plan is there. I'll try to do some digging over the course of the next week, but it feels like LSU is done adding at this point, and now it's just a matter of, okay, there's 5 extra that we have here. Who wants to be a designated student athlete? Who thinks, probably not going to play, I'm going to transfer out? And then you've always got the risk of injury, certainly more so with pitchers, and you hope that's not what happens, but sometimes it does. I mean, this time last year, Devin Sheeran tore his ACL. He was playing pickup basketball. So, it's an interesting time for college coaches from the time the regional ends, literally the regional, that's when the portal opens, and then through now when guys are still making transfer portal pledges. That's a long time to go. You're talking about 6 weeks of just complete upheaval with the roster. In 3 of those weeks, there are some teams still competing for a national championship. So it's just a mess in the summer with college baseball rosters being assembled. But we did this exercise, I think, in What If Wednesday last week when I was at Media Days. But right now it feels like Kate Arambedes, you're very, very likely catcher. I think it's likely at first base, some combination of Seth Dardar, Zach York. Both those guys are left-handed hitters. Just depends on who is better defensively there. At shortstop, it's certainly Milam. Second base, Dardar, Simpson, Reeves can play. And then I think Trent Carraway, the Oregon State transfer, is a likely third baseman, although Simpson can certainly play there as well. So that's kind of your look at the infield. The outfield, it's going to be Curiel, Brown, and Stanfield, I think, every day. They'll try to get William Patrick some at-bats, especially early in the season, because that's a guy that's just got immense physical ability. But your outfielder spots are set in stone. And then you've got a lot of pitchers that have got to find their way. The only guy that I feel really, really comfortable calling for his role today as a pitcher on that staff next year is Kason Evans. Like, I think Cowan's going to be a weekend starter. We'll see. And then you got so many guys with so many capabilities. Like, Lockenmeyer's a guy they love from North Dakota State. He had a 2.37 ERA, 56 strikeouts to 18 walks last year at North Dakota State. He's really good. Is he just a left-handed reliever like Griffin Herring, or is he a starter? I don't know. Can William Schmidt take that jump? I'll see. Cooper Moore is a very, very high floor starting pitching option from Kansas. If you bring him in, he's in your weekend rotation. He's going to throw a ton of strikes. He's going to throw a lot of changeups. He's going to throw 93, 94 miles an hour, and he'll probably get you 5 or 6 solid innings. Is he going to be a Friday night guy or a front of the rotation guy? I don't think so, but he's a quality arm. What can you get out of Jaden Newton next year? Like, Dax Daith is a very intriguing right-handed arm up to 96 miles an hour. He's a 7th-year college player. Like, there's a lot of intrigue with this staff. Can Maverick Rizzi be a closer? What's Cooper Williams going to do? Can he start? Like, I feel like DJ Primo is probably just going to be a specialist lefty. So I should say I got a good feeling what he's going to do. But there are so many question marks with this roster. But as I look at it, and I look at LSU on paper, it looks to me like a team that should compete at the top of the SEC, should compete for a national seed, and should be able to compete for a national championship. I realize that's very, very obvious to say when you have the faith that everyone seems to have around here with Jay Johnson. I certainly share that. But I do see it. Now, you're going to have some guys step up, no doubt. But this baseball program and the resources behind it from a facility perspective and a coaching perspective and technology perspective, like, they develop really good players. And it feels like you are, generally speaking, going to get about the best out of most of the guys you bring in. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it doesn't. But they found a role for Jacob Myers this year. They made Chris Stanfield grow by leaps and bounds. Like, you got a Curiel, you got a Cruz. Like, okay, yeah, that guy's going to figure it out. But more often than not, they get guys in here and they get better and they produce, and LSU wins a lot of games. And I think when I look at this roster, it excites me for 2 big reasons. It excites me, first and foremost, clearly, because it looks like a championship caliber team to me with talent. That's the most exciting thing. The second most exciting thing is that I'm going to be able to go out there in the fall, and there's going to be real competition. Like, who's playing first? Who's playing second? Who's playing third? Who, besides Kason Evans, feels like they can start? What have you seen in the transition from these freshmen into sophomores? Like, who's gotten better over the course of a summer with your bats, whether it's in the Northwood League or Cape Cod, or you were sent off for instructional work, or whatever the case may be? When you come back to Baton Rouge in the fall, who's taking steps forward? I'm looking for the Andrew Stevenson. Talented freshman, played a little bit, not a lot of production. Bam, sophomore year explodes. You can get that from Aaron Beatty. You can get that from Rizzi. You can get that from Cooper Williams or William Schmidt. That's a difference maker on this roster. But for those that are still monitoring the transfer portal and looking for Jay to send out the tiger emoji and checking up on Kendall Rogers 3 times a day, I think LSU's probably done. Again, would not stun me at all. I will leave that door open. I'm not saying sources tell me LSU's slamming the door. That's not what I'm telling you. I'm telling you based on what I know from what I was told 3 weeks ago. Like, I think you're looking at what is probably a portal class that has had its finishing touches put on it. So there's your roster. I think it's pretty good. Can't wait to watch them out there in the fall. We still got plenty to do here. Sean Fazan's going to be along in 30 minutes to talk a little bit about the New Orleans Saints. I've got some lists that we're going to get to in the second hour. college football quarterback tiers, LSU at center, and what that looks like with that rotation. Keep in mind, they went and got Braylon Moore, but DJ Chester was taking the first team reps into spring. Does that mean anything? I'll talk about it at the bottom of hour number 2. When we come back, I had a big old Saturday night. A lot of fun. Something I never really thought I'd be watching, but I was. So we'll talk about it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is that website. Jonathan Carver and his team are fantastic folks to work with. I know that if you're a business owner, you probably hear from a lot of insurance agents. That's kind of the nature of the game. And you've got folks calling saying, hey, let me look at it. I can save some money for you. I can save you this and that. If that's all you're interested in hearing about, it probably wouldn't call Highland Insurance Group. They're certainly capable of saving some folks money because they got dozens of markets available to them as an independent broker, but that's not their specialty. Why they win business and why they keep business at Highland Insurance Group is because they're experts and because their clients know that as they operate their business, if something were to happen, storm, car accident, lawsuit, cyber breach, whatever, they're covered. If you're going to pay a lot up front for insurance, it might as well respond for you, right? The Highland Insurance Group will make sure that happens for you. Let them audit your policy. Let them take a look at it. It doesn't cost you anything, and make sure that you're in the right position. If you are, great. If you're not, let them talk to you about it. It's the Highland Insurance Group. You can find them online at HighlandIG.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Hope your work week's off to a good start. Thanks for hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Had a lot of folks hanging out with 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge back on Saturday night. We had giveaway 4 VIP opportunities and 4 winners for UFC 318, which was down in New Orleans. We were at LaBerge in Baton Rouge, ESPN Bet. I have been in that sports book for Saints Monday night games against the Chiefs, Saints Thursday night games. I've been in there for big-time college games. I've been in there for the World Series. I have never seen that sports book look like it did on Saturday night. It was packed, and it was buzzing on Saturday for UFC 318. Now, I don't need to make anything up here. Like, this is just straight from the horse's mouth. I've never seen a UFC fight before. Never watched one. Don't really know the rules. Don't know any of the fighters. Like, we were sitting there, and I was like, okay, I know Conor McGregor. I know John Bones Jones. And I knew Poirier. He's come on our station before. That's it. That's all I got. And then somebody brought up Ronda Rousey, and I remember her name. She was on Entourage. Like, the fight scene is just not something I ever get into. But I will say this, like, it was impressive to me what that arena looked like in New Orleans. It was impressive to me what the sports book looked like. And it didn't set the hook for me. I'm not going to watch the next UFC fight. I don't know how often they are. I don't even know where to watch them. I guess it's pay-per-view. Like, it's not my scene. But I don't have to want to get into it to appreciate the following that it has and the passion that people have. And, like, it's impossible for me to sit here and say that what I saw Saturday night was just UFC fans, or if there was the Louisiana Poirier retirement fight connection. It's probably a little bit of both. I'm guessing the sportsbook does a good amount of business for big UFC fights, and I'm guessing they did more business because of Poirier's career, where he's from, what he means to the people of this state that love UFC, and the fact they were sending him off. It was very, very cool. Now, to me, like, and keep in mind, I'm not trying to suggest like I know what I'm talking about here. I'm giving you the complete novice point of view on the fights that we watched. I realize you can't control fights, like what the outcome's going to be, unless you go WWE, then you can control them. But in the real fighting world, you can't control them. And I guess we watched, 6, 7 fights, on TV from the sports book, and like all of them went to decision. All of them were unanimous decisions. So there wasn't a split decision. There was not a submission. There was not a knockout. And like that, to me, is what, generally speaking, is the draw to the fight scene. Like, certainly there's skill and tactics, and the analysts are breaking things down, and I'm not going to pretend to know any of those type of things, but you didn't, to me, get the big highlights. Like, every once in a while, somebody struck a blow. But like, it didn't create the big highlight that like I was kind of looking for, is just the guy who's there just for the scene. I don't have any rooting interest. Like, sure, I'd like Poirier to win. He's a Louisiana guy. I'm a Louisiana guy. Like, that's great. But I was kind of taking it in as just to see what drew me to it. And I've watched boxing bouts in my day. Like, I was really young when Tyson took the world by storm, but I remember vividly watching Tyson Holyfield at my Little League year-end party. There were only 4 of us left at the end, and we watched Tyson Holyfield at a buddy's house. I did buy a couple of Mayweather fights and regretted it, generally speaking. But like, I'm not averse to a fight. I think the best line I've ever heard from a boxing / UFC promoter was, here's the deal. If I gave you LeBron and Jordan in their prime going one-on-one in a city park, and you were watching it, and then boom, a fist fight broke out 20 feet to the right, what would you watch? And like, that's a great pitch for a fight promoter. But it just doesn't do a lot for me. It's just not something I've spent a lot of time watching. For a lot of people, golf's like that. For a lot of people, baseball's like that. For a lot of people, basketball's like that. Or there's a lot of discussion about the WNBA right now and whether you like it or whether you don't. Like, for fighting just not that big a deal. But I was so impressed with the event and with what went on at LaBerge and how many people were in on it. And I think that it was great for the city of New Orleans to put on that show for the first time. We talked about it a lot. Like, that city was made to host stuff. And Matt was there, and I'm sure he'll talk about it on his show a little bit later. Alondra was there. I'm confident she probably talked about it this morning. I can't speak boots on the ground firsthand what it was like, but on TV it played, and we had the big TV going at LaBerge. If you're a fight fan, you've never been to LaBerge to watch a fight, here's your, like, go do it. Like, they did a great job. We could hear very clearly. The picture was big. If there were ever anything that we needed to know, like, from the volume, we could get it. The replays were crystal clear. Like, it was a great environment, a great event. And to me, that stuff was more important as someone who doesn't watch the fights. It's like, oh man, New Orleans looks great on TV. Oh man, the arena looks hopping on TV. Oh man, LaBerge got it going on right now. Like, well, I don't care that the unanimous decision went the other way. I mean, when they pulled up, they finished the third round, and I'm watching. I was like, yeah, I think Poirier probably lost based on just what I'm watching. And they pulled up the stats at the end, and it was like strikes, clean strikes, whatever they're looking at over there. And it was multiplication being done on one side with Holloway over Poirier. But it looked like everybody kind of got what they wanted out of it, sans the Poirier win. It was big plus for the city of New Orleans. Jordan, you a fight fan over there?
I wouldn't say I'm a fight fan necessarily.
Did you watch Saturday?
Oh, I had to watch it, but I was put in a particular situation because when I first really started getting the UFC, I watched UFC 300 with Dev, and that's when Max Holloway knocked out Justin Gaethje. So I'm a Max guy. So seeing, so I was in a weird situation because, you want Dustin Poirier to have a good send-off, you want him to have a good retirement fight, but it's like, this is my favorite fighter. I didn't like nothing UFC until I saw him knock out Justin Gaethje, and I'm like, you know what? I'm a Max Holloway guy. I'm following Max Holloway.
This also stood out to me. It seemed like a massive amount of respect between every fighter that fought.
Yeah.
Usually, like in boxing, you've got two guys that either, whether it's manufactured or not, appear to hate each other.
Yeah, like
that did not appear to be the case in any of the UFC fights. It appeared to me to be like immense respect, like almost like a brotherhood type deal, but while we're going at it, like I'm going at it.
No, it definitely, you can tell that obviously because Max and Dustin have fought 3 times to this point. So Obviously, they have a lot of mutual respect between the two. You know, two gladiators of the game, but of the sport, not a game. So yeah, it was a lot of respect. I mean, I watched when Poirier came out for the press conference. Everybody dapped him off. Like everybody that was sitting down literally dapped him off. You rarely see that. So a guy of Dustin Poirier's stature, he's going to command that type of respect. So it was beautiful to see, especially like every time they came out, they was like tapping gloves and like they was like having little mutual. They was talking to each other during the fight, like, you know, hey, you miss me here and all this. So it was just it was sad to see, to say the least.
I mean, look, I
want a better ending.
The end of a great career. One of the things, this is how new I am to UFC, like literally never watched a fight. I'm realizing that we're watching the undercard, and guy gets bloodied real bad, and there's just blood all over the canvas. And I was like, did they clean that up? And we came out for the next fight. I was like, nope, they just go right back out there.
They like spray it, but I guess because like they can't get the blood
you can't get blood out of
they can't get the blood out of it. But no, because so I went to a cage fight with Devin. He brought us to cage fighting. So like, no, they got people that clean it up, but you ain't getting that stain out of there. Yeah, you ain't getting that stain out of it.
So, and last thing on it, it was just an awesome night at LeBear's. Appreciate them for making the whole thing possible. I had no idea what to expect walking in there. I knew we had 4 VIP winners. I walked in, we had the whole buffet area set up, the tables were set up, had the great wait staff that were incredible. I didn't know what kind of crowd would pop up, and that fight ended, close to midnight.
Oh yeah,
and it was full. I mean, the book was full of people. It created a really cool environment, even though I didn't have really much of a rooting interest at all. I mean, I'm theoretically pulling for Poirier, but it didn't.
Yeah, and
I don't know what I'm watching. So it was a fun Saturday when I had expectations that were completely. I had no idea what I was going into. And it was good.
And to be honest, Hunt, it really just shows you that how amazing the crowd sounded in the Smoothie King Center. I watched damn near every Pelicans game. The blender, it didn't sound like that in like at least 3 years, where it was just like rocking. I mean, at one point they couldn't even hear the whistle, like the bell. They didn't even hear the bell. They were still fighting, and like the round was over with. Like that's how loud it was. The blender was rocking. I mean, you kind of could just feel the city just had. It kind of had that vibe when it was like Super Bowl. When the Super Bowl was down, it had that vibe, like the city was alive.
Very cool. It's an awesome city to host an event in. So UFC 318 is in the books. We watched a little bit more history this weekend. I'll tell you about it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Wrapping up hour one here. Sean Fazand in 13 minutes talking Saints. They got Tyler Shuck signed. They open up camp coming up on Wednesday. Not out in California this time around. They'll do it right down the road in Metairie. So we'll talk to Sean about that coming up in 13 minutes. We're watching some history right now in the world of golf. And it's been remarkable over the last 2.5 years to watch Scottie Scheffler play. I know golf's not for everybody, and certainly in September and October, we don't spend a lot of time on it. Late July, I'm going to spend a little bit on it because it's a sports show, and what Scottie Scheffler is doing right now is truly remarkable. He was one shot away from joining Tiger Woods and Ben Hogan as the only 3 players in history to win 2 majors in 1 year by 5 shots or more. He's boat racing the best players in the world on link-style golfs at Augusta. He's winning the Players. He's winning at Harbor Town. He's winning signature events and majors. Now he's a 4-time major champ. He's a 2-time Masters champ, and he's got 3/4 of the career Grand Slam to his name. And if you've listened to me in the brief segments that Beck and I have kind of kicked around with golf, in my lifetime, Tiger's been the only guy to climb the mountain, to be the best player in the world, and then to just go on a run and really not lose it for 10 years. He got hurt, and then he went through one swing change, but he was the best for a long, long period of time. And there was a time early in his career where Rory was the best, and then he didn't win a major for 10 years. And there's a time where Jordan Spieth won the Masters and then should have won it the next year, and he won the British, and he won the U.S. Open at Champs Bay, and you're like, this guy's going to be unbelievable, and he hadn't won since. Brooks Koepka went on a dominant run, 5-time major champion. Kind of all in the same style golf courses. Never won on links, never won at Augusta. He just kind of won the big boy ballparks. And then he got hurt and went to live, and he's never been heard from again. Like Jason Day was the house on fire for a while and barely got one. And Dustin Johnson was incredible and barely got the one, and then he won the Fall Masters. But they lost it. And Justin Thomas was the next big thing, and he hasn't been really a factor. And Scotty's hung around longer than this, and his dominance level is better than those guys. Because not only is he winning the majors on different styles of golf courses, he's also winning all the other big events. And you heard the PGA Tour players this week say, like, what Scotty's doing is just awesome. And it was almost like, there's really not much I can do. Like, sometimes you hear those golfers and it fires them up and they want to compete more. And I'm not suggesting these guys are quitting because Scotty's winning all these tournaments, but they're speaking about him in a way that I haven't heard people speak about Rory like. I never heard anybody talk about Spieth like this. Nobody talked about Dustin Johnson this way. He's just bludgeoning them. And it was such a remarkable consistency. He made one score of over par on a hole the entire weekend. And he gets the 3-shot lead, and you're sitting there going, well, there's no chance he's shooting 74 tomorrow. There's no chance he's playing a 9-hole stretch in 38. Like, he just doesn't do it. He hits it in the fairway more often than not. His iron play is so far and away better than everybody else's in the world, it's not even a discussion. At one point, that was Colin Morikawa, not even close at this point. It's Scheffler. He's always been as good at chipper as there's on the PGA Tour, and when he putts like he did this weekend, you can cancel Christmas. It's over. They can't play with him. And these guys are so absurdly good at this level that for him to be that much better than everybody else is preposterous. And I have never sat here and said on this show or really in like discussions with family or friends, like this guy is going to stick around for a long time and be dominant. I've always said, well, Tiger's the only one that can stick around and be dominant. Everybody else kind of lost it. Not that they like couldn't make a cut or anything, but they didn't maintain that level. And it feels like Scotty Scheffler is the first guy that I'm rethinking that, and I'm going to go, well, this guy might win 7. He might win 8. Like, I've never thought that about anybody else. And it's the combination of his consistency, his demeanor, and the way that other players talk about him that is remarkable. And he's not going to change the game of golf like Tiger did. He's not as demonstrative. He's not as magnetic. But if you just watch it and you appreciate golf, like I can speak to this conversation in the exact opposite way that I did the last segment on UFC. I don't know squat about UFC, and I'm not even going to pretend. I got a pretty good handle on golf. And to watch that guy just rip 6 irons and 7 irons and 8 irons hole high time and time and time again, and then roll in putts, and if he gets in trouble, he gets immediately out of it, it's amazing. And he doesn't have the huge fist pumps, and his press conferences afterward are really boring, and he's not attracting a whole new audience to the game of golf like Tiger did. It's none of that. It's not generational in that way. But it feels like it could be in that this may be Scotty's generation. You talk about Jack and Arnie's generation, and you talk about Tiger's generation. This could be Scotty's. Because he's got 4, and I just feel like I would sleep pretty good if I had to put down a couple of paychecks on Scotty getting to 7. And you realize the rarefied air you are starting to get in when you start talking about that, it's a handful of guys in the history of the game. And his game is so consistent and so versatile, I don't see what's gonna stop it. I was enthralled watching yesterday, and he was in no jeopardy whatsoever of having anybody come catch him in the golf tournament. None. Like he made a bogey, he made a double on 8, but that cut it to 3. Did I think he was going to go out there and make another bogey? I did not, and he did. And you hear like Harris English talking, he's like, well, feel like I had to go out there and do something pretty special. And Harris English played a great round, but he's going to have to shoot 62 to Ty Scotty because he doesn't come back. So, historic year for golf. You saw two amazing things. One, Rory McIlroy finishes the career Grand Slam in what I consider probably the best golf tournament I've ever watched in April. And then Scotty wins 2 majors, ticks off 2 more towards the career Grand Slam, gets to 4, and has got a chokehold on the number 1 ranking in the world of golf. It was really, really cool to watch. And I like history. I'm appreciative of history. Feels like we're watching it in golf right now. So that's it for our number 1. We got, a little bit of variety there. We talked some football at the top, talked a little bit of LSU baseball in the middle, got to some UFC, and then got some golf. That's a lot of variety here in July. We're going to get things back between the buoys and talk a lot about football in the second hour. College football quarterback tiers from the folks at The Athletic. Tier 1 is very, very interesting to me for a couple of reasons. I'll get into that. What is LSU doing at center this year? I've got that up at LouisianaSports.net, and we'll also talk about it at 2:30. We'll pause for Sports Center, get you your national headlines. Then we'll come back. We'll talk to Sean Fazan about the state of the New Orleans Saints. We're just 2 days away from the Hoodats putting on some helmets and getting after it for the 2025 season. So we'll do that after Sports Center on this Monday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.